Just you know why you and I will buy and
What? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Soul Time Podcast.
Oh yeah, Paul. A few people have sent their apologies. Tada is she didn't sleep well last night. She says she's sleeping in, or it's their morning there now. Jeremy's got something on for work tonight, so he's just going to finish up that and hopefully join us at that. He'll join. So tonight's topic. So Paul, last week was interesting. We chatted about what was it again? Educators.
Oh,
and then
there's tonight.
And tonight it came up as, you know, this topic, the concept of like these religious like the prophets and the philosophers and great thinkers, in terms of them being playing a role in spiritual education, or, you know, and just for us to explore that. Oh, look at Mark's thing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Who's behind your head?
Oh,
Or are you the great thinker?
yeah, I'm the
That's
great
it.
thinker. What are you talking about?
You. Is there no one behind your head?
It's me, of course. What are you talking about?
That's a very clever Mark. Actually, before we actually talk about it, I did have I have one reflection to share. When before tonight, Shahab and I were talking, and I said, Shahab, like, because it reminded me, because of the thing that you just did with the great thinkers, it's an interesting thing of with great thinkers, because I was looking and there's people that have like millions of followers, like people now. Like, you know, you've got your Tony Robbins, and like there's this guy, guys, I took a screenshot because I've never heard of him. And I found his page on Facebook, and I looked, and he's like, just like encouraging. And look, some of the things he had to say was really nice. Anyway, I'll find it. But then Shahab was actually saying that, from his point of view, a great thinker isn't the influencers, right?
Yeah.
It's like your Martin Luther Kings, or your, like, actually we don't really have, I don't know if we have really any great thinkers like Rumi, and I don't know, there's many. We can maybe talk about them.
There are,
and
like,
so that was good for me to understand. Actually, influencer, someone that kind of influences. But anyway, that's just something else, another layout to tonight's topic. What were you going to say, Shahab?
It's interesting. Maybe the way we look at great thinkers have maybe changed over the last years to decades to centuries to millennia. But I think there are still lots of great thinkers, but we can explore that. I still think there are.
Oh yeah, exactly. Maybe we can explore that. I'm just can't think of the top of my head.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of pioneers in their field too, and I think like more and more, I think we're starting to see young people step into that arena of great thinkers, coming up with really clever technology and like solutions to real problems that we're facing in this day and age. And yeah, like I think that I was looking up some information about people today, even Malala, for example. Like, I would actually consider her a great thinker in the way that she can recognize how important education is, especially for girls and for women, and that she follows that through with action. And I was looking at like the difference between a prophet and a philosopher. I kind of like wanted to start my like investigation on that point, like trying to distinguish what is the difference between a prophet and a philosopher. Because when I was looking at like the teachings that they have, like they can be quite similar in that like a lot of the philosophers do promote like living well so that it benefits not only you as an individual, but the society as well. Seeing us as a part of something bigger, and that our actions impact others, and that, yeah, like, and they emphasize education, they emphasize things like justice. And when I was looking into it, what I came across was what distinguishes a prophet from a philosopher is that is action, is this embodiment of what they teach. They actually live the life. So I came across this thing. It says, a philosopher may change your mind, but a true prophet changes the world. And I think that it's true to an extent. Like these great thinkers and these philosophers, they have these beautiful ideals, and they have, if you look up some of their quotes, they're very profound. And there's a beauty in it, and there's a power in it. But I think the difference is that prophets really act what they teach, and they inspire others to act in a like manner. And it's kind of like this call to live in accordance with a higher standard of conduct, so that we can make the world a better place. Where
So you
sometimes
think great thinkers don't act? Like, for example,
well, I don't know. This is the thing. I didn't really look into great thinkers so much. So like like philosopher and prophet, like I have that like distinction. Great thinkers, there was a bit of like a blurry line, which is where I thought like people like advocates kind of come in, like these great thinkers who think outside the square, like inventors, innovators, pioneers. I kind of maybe like put them in that sphere.
Actually, prophets might have people following them. And that's the thing, philosophers and prophets, or they're definitely completely, like the concept of philosophy and religion are so different. That's where the difference is, that the philosophy is the theory, and then maybe in with prophets and stuff, definitely. But yeah, great things is a very interesting one for us to look at.
Yeah, maybe actually I just thought like maybe great thinkers is for like material advancement.
Yeah. Guys like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I'd put someone like that into a great thinker sort of category. Yeah.
The different distinction I really see is, I think I look at it from the two perspectives. So the great thinkers have very limited scope typically with what they focus on. So for example, Elon Musk is very much technology, environment, advancement from that perspective, but then you might give him a topic of
like health or something different.
Well, health. He's probably got a lot of forward thinking ways to do it, but he won't look at look at it from a philosophical point of view as like, well, let's look at the stars and maybe see what the hidden mystery behind the stars are. So looking more of a spiritual aspect. And I think when we talk about spiritual, I don't mean like hum diddy hum, like closing your eyes and cross-legged and just basically praying to the gods. So it's like that kind of philosophy is, let's close our minds. Like I almost see probably some philosophers are people like Stephen Hawking's, who's also probably a great thinker.
Yeah.
Very much just the brain is like phenomenal. Because then the other philosophers are people like, the typical ones we see like Aristotle, Hippocrates, all of these people who have Plato, deeper awareness of the world around them, and maybe look at it from a spiritual point of view. Whereas like what Tay was saying, I think prophets are trying to bring a message to help something advance, where the only ways prophets need people to follow their actions. Otherwise nothing will really necessarily happen. So there's a big blur often, but I'm just thinking of the great thinkers. I think there's a lot of great thinkers. So I think even Steve Jobs was a great thinker. I would never put him as a philosopher. He's, very forward-thinking, innovative.
Action-orientated, right?
Action,
The great thinkers
Elon Musk. And I think I just wonder, like, someone who's trying to get into the philosophical realm is someone like, who's that guy that was on drugs before? Now he's...
Russell Brand.
I'm not saying he's a philosopher, but I probably see him more recently moving towards kind of, but there's a bit of a blurred line.
Yeah.
Great thinker, but he's really looking from it.
Well, he's more of an influence. See what I mean? Like, his talking is very, it's still good. Like, maybe we have another category, the influence, some of the really good influences. Trying to
I don't
motivate people. He's a motivational speaker rather than a great thinker, you know what I mean? So even Russell Brand, so all these Steve Robbins, like this guy that I found, his name is, guys, have you ever heard of him? Brendan Burchard.
Burchard.
Dude, he has over 5 million followers.
Oh, wow.
Brendan is the world's leading high performance coach, a 3-time New York Times best-selling author, and one of the most watched, quoted, and followed personal development trainers in history. Like, obviously,
personal development, so not a trainer, as in like lifting weights and stuff.
No.
Okay,
He's like just like that. He talks.
Okay, like motivational speaker. Motivational
speakers, and I think they all play a role in kind of who touched. Yeah, but anyway,
like Eckhart Tolle as well. Like he probably
he's more of a philosopher, I think.
Philosopher style.
He would be.
Yeah.
He would be. You're right. He is. Yeah, he is.
So, can philosophy encompass spiritual ideas, or is philosophy divorced from spirituality?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by spirituality. When I think of spirituality, I think of some traits like love, unity, equality. These are spiritual concepts that maybe don't sometimes have the modern term of spiritual, which is hum-diddy hum.
Are you talking because philosophy don't talk about God? Is that what you mean?
Maybe that's it.
Because Eckhart Tolle does, but sorry, Paul, you're going to say something.
Oh, I just looked up the meaning of philosophy, and it just says the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. So yeah, it really is, like you said, divorced from religion, Sophie. So I think you're more, whereas your prophets, I just looked up the meaning of prophets, is a person regarded as an inspired teacher or proclaimer of the will of God. So yeah, I mean they're both trying to teach and share a message, but yeah, it's definitely the prophets are more spiritual.
And they're saying the prophets are actually also not claiming that they, well, not claiming, what word that you want to use. They're not saying that they're inspired by them from themselves, but they're saying that something else is inspiring them, and they're just sharing what has inspired. It's almost like a medium.
They're more of a teacher.
Yeah. Very different role. And then philosophy, and then you have the great thinkers and influencers and stuff that have a mixture of, some say that, look, my concepts are influenced by others. I'm also just sharing what my understanding is to make it easier for you to digest, because sometimes it's good to hear it from another person in a way that we might understand, or
Do you think somehow like their purpose is linked?
Yeah.
As in, like, they all serve to better humanity?
Yeah, for the betterment of humanity, definitely.
Yeah.
I think though, like, I don't know, from the definition of philosophy though, it seems that they're more, I don't know, I know, I mean, there's got to be some sort of underlying will to better humanity, but I think that they're more just trying to understand it,
right,
and explain that. Like,
I think a lot of the ethical philosophers, maybe, like, I think there are different categories of philosophy too. I think like there's a lot of crossover between like the ethical, philosophical thinkers and prophets. Like those ideas are similar, but then like somebody I met the other day was sharing that they did like a uni course in philosophy, and she was basically told that she should give up all her notions of religion and God because she was a fool, basically. Like, you know, and so she ended up like quitting the course because she was like, and she just started questioning everything. So like, I just found that incredibly interesting when like historically there has been so much crossover, like with I think it was Aristotle. A lot of his ethical philosophy very much speaks to the betterment of humanity, the betterment of society, of the individual as well, and that they're interlinked. So that was very interesting to me when that's very similar to like the message that's brought by many of the prophets, like love thy neighbor, like Jesus said, and you know, Baha'u'llah, he talks about unity of mankind all the time, and like each prophet that's come has said like we are individuals but we're part of a collective and we have to work together to advance. So yeah, that was very interesting to me, which made me like ask the question, like, is religion divorced from philosophy? Yeah, it's just a very interesting thing, like when there are so many themes that cross over. But maybe it is because I have to like, there are different categories of philosophy.
I thought philosophy was what do you call it? When you do the course of philosophy, you do it with I think a course in some type of religion, I think. Or,
Theology.
yeah, that's it.
No, because actually a lot of courses offer philosophy, like in like Bachelor of Arts, even like you do philosophy as a subject, just as in terms of just theories on like the way the world works or stuff like that. So it's really very much, well, in study, in university level, it's very much divorced from concepts of God and religion and stuff. And I'm sure you can do philosophy in when you study religion too, but it's offered in a very basic, like first year arts degree, philosophy.
And theology, I think, is the study of religion, Mark. From my understanding.
Yeah, it is, obviously. But I think, I swear, I remember, like, they used to have these, I don't know, you go to this place and you get pamphlets, and I think one of them, theology and philosophy, was connected as a dual.
I'm just thinking out loud, like in terms of, from my perspective, probably a lot of the philosophers, very similar to what, I can't remember who said it, was Sophie Ottay, was saying that like the prophets say that I'm getting my message from a divine source, whereas philosophers don't do that, but they sometimes share very similar messages, whereas a prophet will say, may share the same message. So, for example, I don't know, Aristotle, or I don't know, one of the great Confucius, one of the great Greek philosophers may say something, and one of the prophets may say something very similar, but it's the kind of, they'll say that mine's divinely inspired, and the other one might say that this is from deep reflection and my deep meditation and so forth. There's a big crossover. Whereas I think great thinkers, the other one I see as a great thinker is someone like Einstein. Is very much from a science background, but he also has a lot of almost philosophical views as well.
Yeah. Just saw, like, I'm just on like a website of some famous philosophers.
Is it Wikipedia? If
It's
isn't,
not. It looks like a more reliable, valid source, but maybe not. So Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah, he talks about the preeminence of the soul.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And he's a philosopher. He is here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a poet as well.
Transcendentalist. That's a big word. Transcendentalist movement.
Yeah.
American philosophical orientation that rejected the pressures imposed by society, materialism, and organized religion in favor of the ideals of individualism, freedom, and a personal emphasis on the soul's relationship with the surrounding natural world. So he rejects organized religion, but talks to like speaks to like the soul and the relationship with nature and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Charles just gone to get a cup of tea. Do you want to share anything, Mark, as well, or Paul?
I don't know. I think I think we rattled off a few great thinkers before, but like some of the people, probably the one that sticks in my mind the most is like Oprah. Like even like people like that, like she, as much as she is in that sort of other category, which is a crossover of the few like the influencers, like you said, but yeah.
But she's definitely a great thinker. You're right. No, she is.
Yeah.
Even her program was very forward thinking. It was the way the quality of interviews. It was deep, you know. And you know, it'd be a very hard time to be identified or even be a great thinker because of the media, and there's so much out there to be against you, you know. So it'd be very difficult to present some of the things that she has and other people have.
Yeah.
She's very much action oriented, definitely.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, the one that apparently started the coronavirus.
What?
Like, have you guys heard that?
No.
Guys, he predicted this.
Yeah. There's a TED talk he did. Yeah, a few years ago.
And he said, like, this is going to be something that you don't even think that it's going to be like some kind of airborne.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Bill Gates. I was just saying that. Yeah. Paul was just sharing that he feels Oprah is a great thinker. No, she's great. She's very innovative. She's got, even when she doesn't have her show, she's always trying to find various ways to kind of make spirituality and just being a better person, self-reflection stuff, more available to people. I think it's a really great thing that these people do. Like, whether you believe in prophets or not, like for me, that I do believe in prophets, you still need people to continue the work and be innovative and proactive because even in our religion, we don't have clergy. So, you know, everyone kind of is individual to themselves, kind of doing their best and stuff, like, you know. So we think that right now, Paul has said, like, you know, we no longer need clergy. So we have the prophets brought the message, but now we're at a time of humanity where you can actually be thinking and applying the word of God yourself and continuing in society, that's why you really need people to be great thinkers and be innovative with teachings and writings and theories and stuff. But anyway.
Do you think it comes at a cost for these people? I was just thinking about like how much they contribute and like how much they would have to sacrifice in order to sustain a particular like level of thinking, thought, conduct, behavior. Like, I just feel like that would take a toll on a person as well as like their immediate contacts, like their family and friends and stuff. Like, I just wonder like if these like great thinkers they really have to sacrifice, and how that affects their mental health as well. Like, yeah, I think that we can often idolize or put great thinkers, philosophers, like on a pedestal, and they almost become like more than human, if that makes sense. But like they were people, and they had like emotional needs and psychological needs, physical, like it just makes me think like how much that they would have actually also suffered internally.
Think about it this way, right? I don't know, like, this is my take on it. If you love something so much or really enjoy it, like soul time, like no one has to force me to come, you know, like, because I really like coming and having conversations and da. So, or even all of us individually, we have so much passion. All of us are so passionate about different things in our life. And, you know, like, you know, I could name for each person, like for you, Sophie, drawing, like, people don't make you do it. You want to do it, right? Of course, you still have to give time and allocate time and it would be very difficult. But I really feel like at the end of the day, of course, it takes a toll, but love and motive, and they have that vision motivates them. And that's really that you can't think anything. They think, I can't think anything else. It's within them. It's not like they think, oh, I've really got to, and if someone doesn't agree with it, it's not necessarily that their ego is saying like, oh, you don't agree with what I'm saying, see you later. They're saying, oh my God, like, it's so sad that you don't understand that like this or so I think really love drives it, and that's they're called to this kind of thing. They feel it. They feel the calling. I mean, all of us, like when you reach a level of consciousness, nothing can take that away from you anymore. It's like you think, oh wow, how did I even not think like this? So I think that they really are. Most of the time, of course there's always that small percentage, but I think majority of the time they're very much motivated, and they couldn't mind if they feel so like you kind of feel you wish that some people could think in a different way, and that would probably be the hardest part, I reckon, of their role in society, is to even be seeing capacity in people, in humans, but then seeing that instead they choose a different path for themselves, whether it's an addiction or that would be the hardest part, when you see so much capacity in someone and they don't rise up to that level. And that would be my take on them struggling. They would really find that difficult.
Yeah.
I think,
Oh, sorry, Mark, you go.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that, well, back in the day when the church was in power, for example, Galileo, he thought, or he looked in the telescope and saw that there's mountains on the moon, which I believe back in the day they said that they weren't, the only things that have mountains was only on Earth. So he was trying to, well, change something, I guess, and it took a toll because he had to admit, or as he got killed, that there was no mountains or structures, mountain-like structures on the moon. So I guess some people back in the day, maybe even Albert Einstein, were sort of shut down because they thought differently, or they figured out something that wasn't in sort of the, that everyone, well, obviously the church was very powerful, so it's not like you could do anything. But, and I just wanted to point out with you were mentioning, Sophie, with their mental health, I believe Albert Einstein, he had a list or rules from his wife, I think, that he can't disturb him at this time, and if he wants something, he gets it or something. And I think, so really, I don't know, yes, he really achieved a lot of things and changed I guess the world, different sciences improved because of it. But I don't know, he's not very, I guess, maybe he doesn't have any emotions or something like that.
Oh, that's interesting that you brought that up. So it's like the first one is really, first of all, if you are thinking different to others, you do get shut down by society. In that time, it was the churches or people that dominant. But now you're right, you do get shut down. The other one was, you're saying that the people around them sometimes also suffer. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I guess you're right. So we do need to sacrifice, whether it's time, whether it's our emotions, someone needs to sacrifice. And in this situation, like really Albert Einstein's wife really needed to sacrifice so much for the betterment of the world and society. You're right. It is still going to be taxing to someone.
It reminds me that there's a writing in the Baha'i faith that says, behold the candle, how it gives light, and it weeps away its life drop by drop, to give forth its flame, basically. So like if we think of it as sacrifice, like as a candle, the candle is just melting its life away, it keeps giving and giving in order to give the light. I think that a lot of these philosophers, great thinkers, prophets, like this is how they lived in like sacrifice mode for something greater than themselves. Whether it's God, whether it's progress, whether it's ethics moving, you know, whether it's to understand the world of nature, it's always for a cause that's bigger than themselves, I think, and that's the light, maybe.
That's true. They are always giving up for others and for the world.
Well, even also for themselves. I think over here is Diogenes, and I guess he pretty much he wanted to be happy with himself, so he left all his he lived in a barrel, and he had nothing, because it's sort of it's not really, doesn't make him happy, I think, last time I remember. And so I think it's also that it's, well, for himself, that I guess maybe he thought he may have all these things. I don't know much about it, but maybe he was a rich person, he had all these things, and it didn't make him happy, so he just thought differently and lived in a barrel somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, so are you saying, like, I guess, were you saying that at the end of the day, ultimately, it does give yourself happiness? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, pretty much, because you can buy everything. If you're a millionaire, you could buy new cars, you could stack up everything, you could have everything in the world pretty much. But then really, if you're not happy with yourself, well, then it doesn't really matter how much cars you buy or how much stuff you buy. So I guess in Diogenes' sort of philosophy, I think he means that it doesn't matter how much stuff you have. If you're not happy with yourself, you won't be happy ever. Like, for example, the person, what do you call it? The one who sold Microsoft, when Microsoft bought Minecraft, the game, for $2.5 billion, and so Notch, he is the creator of Minecraft, and so he got $2.5 billion, but his mental health, he was depressed. So what? He's got $2.5 billion. That's a huge amount of money. He could live off it. He could buy everything. He could buy anything, but he's not happy.
He was living in an old castle or something that he bought. Like, it was a huge mansion.
Really?
And yeah, I watched the documentary on him, and he was just so unhappy. No friends, like just wandering around this huge mansion on his own. And you know, he said that, I could buy anything I wanted, but I just didn't have friends. I didn't have anything that made me happy. Like, he was so depressed.
And that's the interesting thing about philosophers, prophets, and also great thinkers, and motivational speakers, whoever. They do ultimately have to find this concept of happiness in a way that it's not like you're always happy, but you're also seeing the wisdom in times of difficulty, and you do see it as an opportunity for growth. You do see it as ultimately we are doing it because we want to be happy. Like, of course, that I think that we're given that from the moment we're born. We're given this thing called the ego, depending on how we feed it, depending on how we use it. Like, I feed it by eating food to survive, so that it depends on how I use it, and so ultimately I want to do things that I'm going to be happy. But then by reading the thoughts and the writings of these people, I realized, even in this time of difficulty, I understand that they have said and they've shown, and actually it is true because I've applied it, that even in the bad times, I'm going to try and remain calm, because it is an opportunity for me to grow. Ultimately, that causes happiness too, having that way of thinking. So, of course, we are going to adopt these patterns of thinking for us, like our happiness of our family, happiness of our friends. Yeah, interesting. So we do want it for ourselves in the end. But
The other way I was just thinking about philosophers, great thinkers, and prophets are a philosopher and a great thinker often have experienced, and they share their experiences with their thoughts by reflection and further kind of trying to
they've applied
advance.
it, kind of thing, in their life.
Or they have already experienced something. For example, I don't know, Elon Musk. Let's think of something. Let's apply it. Maybe like have a bit of a scientific method behind it, or Galileo. Let's look at through a telescope. Let's look for mountains, and then talk about it from that. Whereas the prophet, I think the concept of a prophet would be that I have a divine inspiration, and I'm going to follow it. A true prophet, so someone that's maybe like, it's not trying to scam me for money or whatever, but like a true prophet's like, okay, like you want a common one, for example, most people probably maybe think of Jesus or one of those great religious prophets. Major ones, yeah. So you might think of them as, okay, I've gotten some divine source, and then I'm going to follow it through. Whereas the philosophers and maybe great thinkers, they don't claim to have something divine, but they're just through their own experiences have maybe come to the realization that maybe this is the way that ethics should be, or this is the way that we should move forward, or things like that. I think there may be a bit of a distinction as well, just thinking out loud.
Yeah, definitely. That's like in those definitions that I read out before. Yeah, the prophets are taking someone else's word and sharing that, whereas the philosophers and great thinkers are creating their own ideas and sharing that.
I mean, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I feel like ultimately even those kind of things come from another source. It's like you experience something. It's all one. It doesn't, like, I personally think it's all one. And we've all taken bits, and we're just looking at it from a different perspective. We're looking at it from a different angle. But creation is one thing, and depending on what we resonate with, at the end of the day, like, the reason why I really love the concept of God and religions and stuff and whatnot is because I feel like it just has shown me that what my true potential is as a human being, you know. And of course I still read and listen to other people's perspectives, like these great thinkers, and I love philosophy as well, and I love listening to influencers as well, and also motivational speakers, because they're ultimately the truth, and the creation is one. And I'm just trying to, you know, polish myself as a human being, how I can just use myself as a tool that I'm designed to be, you know, which is so advanced and so complex and so intricate. It's all one. I don't know, just separating it from that. But then I've also learned that from, like, you know, the source being. But then I'm really interested to hear, because I do know that that's not how everyone thinks, and it's just I love it. I think it's so complex and interesting that we all think so differently. Like, for example, even the existence of God, or the the validity of prophets, or, you know, like, I love hearing what other people's, like, what you guys think about that, because just I find it very fascinating that we all have such different takes on these kind of things.
I feel like people that do explore these things, like whether it is like prophecies or philosophy or great thinking, and that, you know, they exercise their brain more, like, you know, and their brain's probably like the most powerful thing it is in our body. You know, the people that do that seem to be a lot happier, like more willing to help out in society and things like that, you know, just participate in discussions like this and all kinds of stuff. But people that maybe don't explore sort of all sides of whether prophecy or philosophy or whatever, they are very sort of close-minded, and they don't use that, their brain like a muscle and train it, and just to become a stronger person, and maybe use that to help the world or whatever.
Yeah, so it's like you're expanding your consciousness all the time.
Yeah.
Like you can never, like there's no limit to knowledge, and there's no limit to learning about yourself and the world and stuff. Yeah, that's really cool.
Have you, Paul, have you always been on this kind of journey, or do you think that certain life experiences led you to being more, I don't know. I only met you like a year ago. Like, I don't know. But like, what do you think? I mean, have you always thought deep about things, or has it just happened, or what?
Never as much as what I have in the past 12 months. And I mean, I met you guys a year ago, and that was pretty much the beginning of it. And since then, I've just explored more and more, and tried to expand my mind more and more, and I think I've found, or I'm trying to find, like, my purpose in life is what it ultimately comes down to. And prior to that, I just existed. Like, I just got up, went to work every day. I enjoyed myself, and I have hobbies and things like that I love in life, but I'd never really had a purpose and some sort of like deeper meaning to do something with my life. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Paul. That's really nice. Yeah, it's interesting how just like it happens at different time.
Yeah.
For people. Yeah. It happens at the right time always as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think that's why they all play a role, right? Anyone sharing a positive message is good, because at the end of the day, it's going to touch someone somehow, and that is important. Not.
Yeah.
So I really like, Paul, when you share things that you find really inspiring and stuff in your Facebook stories and stuff, because you don't know which one of your friends or who will find that attract to that.
Yeah.
Because really, what's the point of having a gem or having something really inspiring and then not sharing it, like keeping it to yourself? It's like, okay, we have to find different avenues and ways of sharing that stuff.
Yeah. One of the guys, one of the podcasts I listen to, like, I find him like as like a great thinker, and he's very outspoken, very blunt, and just his podcast is called Real AF, so real as fuck. and that's what it is. Like, everything he says is just reality. It's just the truth, like, as it is. And it's all opinion based, like his, it's all his own stuff. But he was saying something the other day about these people that it sort of hit me pretty hard. People that like share these things on Facebook and social media, like positive affirmations and stuff, and he's like, he was sort of having a dig at people that just do that and don't do anything about it, like that. And the creators of these things, like people that are making a living at the moment just by like creating memes and stuff, like positive memes, but no action behind it. That's all they do. And they just get a huge following and millions of followers on social media and stuff, but they've never really done anything. Like, all they've done is got on Photoshop and created like a little meme to make someone feel good. They haven't actually gone out of their way and gone and helped out at a soup kitchen or anything, something.
I always think those ones that you put on your desk,
analyzes it.
like, save the world, or like, all these things.
Yeah. Shahab always says, what does that even mean? Like, as in, it's fine, it's great to be inspired.
Yeah.
But it's a really, because
It's
you
very
know what
similar
it
to
is.
material
It's because
happiness.
material. Yeah,
It's very similar to like buying a new
become
phone or buying something, right? Yes,
quick
yeah.
fix.
Well, I mean, it's not a quick fix.
No,
I think
that's what buying a phone is right now.
the way it's not a fix of anything. It's very temporary, and it doesn't give anyone skills to be able to. When you go outside, look at the beautiful blue sky, and that will take away your depression or something like. I don't know. I can't think of one.
You can't think of them, but there's some of them are very random. Like they're very much. Okay, yes, it's great. Like we talk about self-care and we talk about being it's that, but a lot of them focus on the self, and it's very actually individually indulging for these people. It's not actually getting them to spur them into action or to find their true purpose. And yeah, he's absolutely right. These people do make up. They just make things that sound good for people to go, yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So my opinion on that is that even though they're doing that, and yes, it's actually really terrible. It's almost like it's hypocritical. Imagine all those people searching for something.
I know. And there's so many out there.
This is the thing. I think at the end of the day, suffer. Maybe those people are meant to do something, because I don't think it's right, but I do think it does plant seeds in people's minds. Like, yeah, maybe I should be more mindful, or maybe I should be kinder to others, or maybe like better than not. Like, I think sometimes it is good because it does make people think a bit, but a lot of it is very much focused on the self and look after yourself. And it's good to look after yourself. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's very divorced. It's that kind of thinking is very much divorced from your true purpose. So you're actually going to get very depressed, because then when you turn around, you're like, oh, I haven't really done anything good. I've just really focused on myself in a very selfish way. It's almost like you have to step on others to get to where you want to get to. But but for some people it does. I know, imagine all those people, they're looking for something. They're looking for some kind of true meaning to life, like, which is all one anyway, but they're just like looking, and unfortunately have been misled to these pages that are full of empty quotes. And oh well, it's a good start. I think it shows the receptivity of the world and where we are, and that people want to grow. That people are ready now.
Yeah.
That next step.
I was just like even thinking about, like, even if you look at yourself physically, like the quotes like talk about looking out for yourself, like symbolically, metaphorically, I don't know, whatever. But even if I physically like try to look at myself, like my eye gaze is like down. I miss everything else that's happening. And so if I'm looking at myself, I'm missing everything that is happening out there, which means that like there's inequality, injustice, all these things are like enabled to keep perpetrating. And it just becomes this cycle over and over again. The more we're told to look at ourselves, the more these big issues keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Right under our noses, we can't see it. I feel like when we look at ourselves, we become ignorant. We stop investigating, we stop exploring, we stop learning, because we're all about like, what can I do for myself? What can I do for myself?
Well, not even about seeing the injustices, but I think also if you just think about yourself, you also miss just being able to connect with friendships, with looking at nature, with a lot of beautiful things that have outside of you, right? So so I think it's even beyond, like, just to add on to, I'm sure you also mean that as well, but just to add on to what you're saying.
You miss so many opportunities to grow as a person, and like, yeah, you miss opportunities for friendship. Like I've seen so many videos where like even those ones like where people are like glued to their phone and they're like crossing the street and they keep missing each other. They like miss potential, miss opportunities, and then they like replay it where they're not on their phone and they're totally present in the moment. And like there's just so much love that's created, so much like joy and happiness, like where people actually see each other, like they see really who we are, our true selves, and like what kind of a different kind of world we could have if
we weren't looking at ourselves and we were actually looking at others.
Exactly, 100%.
I think I'd like to add with the, I guess, looking after yourself. Well, when I think about it, well, I had to, I don't know, I just feel that it's not really, what do you call it? I think, yeah, like you said, it's good to look after yourself, but I think, I don't know, there should be, like, yeah, personally, I think, yeah, if you start with yourself, then you can go help other people, because obviously, like you said, there's a lot of inequality, and there's a lot of things going around in the big picture, but we can't start there. We have to start first in your home, and then you have to start in your community or your street, and then you have to grow like that. So I think there's like a limit on where we're looking too much to yourself, and then there's looking too little to yourself. So I think there has to be a happy medium where it is, as there'll be some times in your life where you just have to look after yourself more, and then but then there's other times where you have to look at the look out for other people. And also when you do look after yourself, I think you have to have a mindset that you have to look at yourself, but also you have to look at what's it doing to people. So for example, if you you're one of those guys who works out every day, 6 hours all day, and then obviously, do you have time to spend with your parents, or do you have time to spend with your girlfriend, or do you have time to spend with your friends? It really, that's affecting. Of course, it's not affecting. Well, it's not affecting you, but it's affecting others. So obviously 6 hours of workout, that's pretty insane. So, but a happy medium, what I guess what's known is that you're supposed to do 1 hour of exercise. So I think because obviously that person who works out 6 hours a day, he's addicted to exercising. So that's why I was saying that I think sometimes looking after yourself, there's a limit of where it becomes an addiction, and there's another time where it's too little. So, but I still think that you need to do it like that, but you have to start with yourself being happy with yourself. That's the main thing. Or else, if you can't be happy with yourself, then how can you make others happy?
Yeah, that's so true, Mark. I couldn't agree with you more. That was really well said. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Oh, no problem.
I guess another way to look at that, Mark, is that kind of, I think the concept you're talking about is moderation. So if I'm working in a hospital setting and, there's 6 different medical wards and my ward is perfect, I am absolutely on time, everything's looking really good, and I don't offer my assistance to my colleagues, then their issues, if I'm just so inwardly thinking, is maybe what sometimes we get taught to do. No, just look after yourself. As long as you're fine, that's all that matters. Then my colleagues start to suffer, and then their patients suffer, and the nursing staff suffer, and then that all gets kind of, basically passed on to myself. But if I try and do the best that I can on my ward, but at the same time, if I've done my work, do I need to really overachieve my ward when it's not going to achieve much, but actually go and help my colleagues? Am I going to actually gain the most happiness? Whereas I think a lot of people that we talked about earlier, maybe they're not advocating that. All that matters is you go by the latest and greatest toys or greatest whatever. And another way to think about it, if you're so well dressed, you're wearing, I don't know, Gucci and Versace, and then you're going out into the public, and the public, you see you're wearing like ripped, non-fashionable ripped jeans, and really like they're disheveled, and their clothes are, haven't been washed in weeks. But no, it's fine. I'm looking after myself. I'm wearing my Gucci and Versace and Dior or whatever. I think that kind of environment would actually make me suffer. I would look around and go, actually, I feel this is a big emptiness. But I think at the same time, you can't, then you got to maybe, what way is there? But you're right. But if everyone else around me is, washed and showered and wearing clean clothing, not necessarily high-end clothing, just, normal clothing, but I'm really disheveled. But I think then maybe at that time it is actually really important to look at trying to help yourself to achieve some sort of happiness. So it's that kind of, I think, concept that you're talking about, that moderation, and how do we find that?
No, it's true. Like, it's like I reflect on when I became a mum. I realized that if I was just going to become really obsessed about something and not looking after myself, like, yes, I have to breastfeed. It doesn't matter if I'm not getting any sleep, and, just actually depleted, not looking after, if I wasn't going to look after my, what I'm eating, if I'm not having the sleep that I require, not asking other people for help. I think that's where the balance comes in, right? You look after yourself, you get others to also help fill your cup up so that you can give more. It's very important to have moderation in everything. Like, even if you say, okay, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to start a school for the disadvantaged, you still have to somehow bring some money to start it, or you have to bring the means. You can't just be like, and you also need help from other people. You can't say, I'm going to do it myself. And you do have to look after yourself. Otherwise, you can't do good things. You can't. You have to look after your physical, material, spiritual education and needs. Otherwise, we cannot achieve or help others, if that's what we want to do, like, which is what we're designed to do anyway, to work together, human beings working together. And yeah, you definitely need to look after and what you said was interesting. So, like, obviously, sorry if it's annoying, but a lot of my inspiration obviously comes from the Baha'i faith. One of the quotes that really inspires me is that it says that you really need to look after your private life, your private character. Otherwise, nothing is going to be achieved. If you are just trying to, like that guy that he was saying, like in the podcast, Paul, these people that are just sharing these things, but they're not actually doing it themselves. Let's look on like such a local level, like within us. One of us is constantly wanting to achieve something. Got to achieve big. But within your own life, there's corruption, injustice. You treat the people around you disrespectfully, your family. You don't reflect. You don't eat well. It's going to actually crumble. It will. You have to then look after the foundation and start from the home, from the individual, from the home, and then move bigger and move out. Definitely we have to work on our private. And that's where I think it's misunderstood in our society, self-care or looking after yourself. It's very much understood in a very material sense rather than a deep, like you're doing it for the greater good. It's like we're all pillars holding up a foundation, If one of them is not well, then obviously the foundation's not going to work. That's why we all have to work on ourselves so that we can do something together. It's not like one person holding away, But all of these ideas, believe it or not, that we're talking about have come from somewhere. None of us thought of it. So,
Yeah.
Hey, Einstein has a quote about that. Hang on, I want to find it.
About what?
About exactly what you just said.
About the topics, like our topic.
No, that these things have all been thought before. Hang on.
Yeah, I heard this the other day too.
While Sophie's going through that, Mark, who's the person over your right shoulder?
Yeah, that's I think that's Eden, some guy. Oh, Elijah.
Ah, Elijah.
Yeah. Oh no, I just thought he looked cool.
Which one? The one over your left shoulder or your right shoulder?
That guy.
Yeah. We went to cave of Elijah in Israel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Really cool.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I think the Middle East has this special potency and power connected with it. Well, Middle East and also going towards the Mediterranean. So, I mean, I really haven't been to the Mediterranean, so I can't say for certain. But I mean, we look at all the great Greek and Greek philosophers and Italian thinkers, but I'm more talking about the Middle East, where I've been to Israel and kind of being
Jesus, Moses, like they all came from there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the Islamic structures around there as well, and Baha'i structures there as well. But just Israel is like a phenomenal kind of a soup of different thoughts and religions and ways of life. It's just it's very fascinating. But anyway, Sophie, you continue with your.
I can't believe it, because I remember reading this quote and I was like, that's so funny. And then like, not funny, but like interesting in a funny way. But then like Tay said exactly that. Tay, you're a great thinker. Well done. Keep them promoted.
You come from somewhere. No, I'm not.
Everything,
yeah, that's it.
Everything that exists in your life does so because of two things: something you did or something you didn't do. Like, so what we're talking about is like either something we did or something someone else did or said, or like it's all one, it's all like intermingled. We have experiences at different time, but it all kind of like circles around like the same kind of concepts of like, we tend to come to like these understandings in soul time, like the like particular patterns where like things come to like this understanding of like unity. It comes to this understanding that the foundation is love. It comes like to the understanding that, you know, we are one and we should treat each other with dignity and respect. And like it's just so beautiful to see like how it really like it funnels down to this like central understanding. And I feel like that's kind of ties in with Einstein's quote, something you did or something you didn't do. And like it is all contributing to a growing body of knowledge that is hopefully like aimed at the betterment of humanity. I fingers crossed. I hope so.
If it was not their idea, like it's a space where we just dump ideas of other people, that's why it's like bring a quote or go and look up a quote, because it's very much encouraging us to see, okay, what, like we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, we're trying to discuss concepts together, but looking at what other people, the work that they've done, or you know, in the past, and what they've come up with in terms of understanding and stuff. What makes our communities in like the Western world so secular? Like I'm really curious. Like, is it because because even sometimes, you know, even if, for example, I spoke about what I believe in, it comes across that I'm trying to convert people. And I'm like, no, I'm just sharing. See what I mean? Like, what made this happen? Like, we're so scared of hearing that someone believes in a religion or God. It's like, you know, what happened?
It's not even a religion or God. Look at the way vegans cop shit. It's what they believe in, and they try and speak about it, and you know that they get just beaten down for it.
Do you know what it is? It is at any point, and I've realized this with people, at any point, if it requires people to reflect or change their way of thinking or believing, they don't want to be held accountable. It's like, no, why are you telling me something? I don't want to hear it. Because if I hear it, then I have to think of why I'm not doing that, actually.
Yeah.
Being good, or honestly, Vegans.
Sophie, write this down to put it on the
I
Facebook
am
group after.
going to become a great.
Hey,
You
Mark,
are.
you have to get out of that picture. We have to put Tay in that middle
No, shit.
picture.
You go and put one up. Oh my god.
Let's just combine Tay's name with Plato's name, and we get Tato.
What, guys?
Tato.
Or is it? Snap. What?
I actually think that this
Are you great thinking or just normal
a
thinking?
great thing. Bad jokes. So I actually do think that even me saying that has come from somewhere, but it does come down to that. And our society doesn't want to change. It's like if someone tells me about exercise being good right now, sorry, this is my challenge right now. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Like yes, I know it's good, but I just can't bring myself to get up at 6 and do it, or it's making me have to change my habits and to become like I don't want to. So maybe that's where it comes, and that's why I try and practice it with wisdom. I never like to make people feel bad. That's the last thing I think we need to do is make each other feel bad. Even vegans, like I understand, like, or me as being a religious person or whatever, it's very important that when we share, is that person hearing, like, or is their cup full, you know? So we do need to identify, and then certain circumstances do make people more willing to listen, which is maybe sometimes challenges. Like when I find my friends really in the dumps, they're really willing to listen to what's maybe going to help them take the next steps and make their life a bit better. And I'm not taking advantage of that. I'm actually using it as an opportunity to help them grow and understand and see that this is what's happening. And so maybe we live also in a very much world of comfort. This all just came flowing to me, to be honest. I asked the question
Divine inspiration.
Profit.
It's a very wise thing to do. I remember
What did I say? Which part?
the whole thing about if people don't want to hear it.
But I mean,
because
even the
of-
comfort part. So the second part was that we're actually very comfortable.
Yeah, so people don't want to
So
hear
they're
it.
only when
because
it's when they're
yeah.
challenged in life, they're willing to hear.
I remember I used to live by this motto. Probably 10 years ago, I stopped living by it. I remember when about 15 to about 25, I really lived by this prophecy, this philosophy that every advice is useful, but it's up to you to think about which advice is practical and is which one you're going to use.
Yeah, it's true.
So listen to everyone. If someone tells me go outside and go outside naked because the cold weather is going to be it's going to make you stronger, it's for me to have a listen and then for me to go back and reflect on that and go, actually that's rubbish, that's the most ridiculous thing.
Or
I've
maybe
ever
I
heard.
don't want to do it. Sometimes maybe you don't
Or
want to do it.
yeah, so I think any like because I remember there was like a book I remember reading. It was about to sports people, and he was like, "What was the best piece of advice you've ever heard?" And I remember very clearly. I think it was about 15, and I think I was obsessed with cricket back then. I was reading all the cricketers. I was like, "This is all crap advice." And I was thinking to myself, the best advice is I'm just going to listen to everyone's advice and then take on board whichever one I thought was going
the
to be.
cricketer said.
This is me.
Oh, you said that.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, this is like, you know, they were like, it's probably half joking, half, you know, the spur of the moment. What's the best advice you've ever had?
Yeah, yeah.
Always try your best. Or someone might,
Yeah.
another one was, make sure you put on your right shoe before you dash. So, like, you know, it was a variety of advice. Some people took it seriously, some didn't. And I thought, this is crap. So my advice from here on is going to be just listen to every single piece of advice and then just take on whichever one I think is going to be useful. So not limiting myself to go, don't speak to me, you're a vegan, or don't speak to me, you're religious, or don't speak to me, you're
health, or...
you believe in this political view, or don't speak to me because you think the world is flat. But it's tough, right?
I had to throw that one in a way.
Don't get me started with the vaccinators, anti-vaccinators.
And that one. Those two here first one.
But it's like now I'm like, where did my life change? You know, more than 10 years ago, why did I stop thinking of that advice? Maybe because I don't hear advice as much as I used to. Now that I'm kind of Maybe I still listen from an
Because
advice
you're
point
the
of
boss
view.
and you tell people what to do all the time now.
I had that that same sort of epiphany when my first child was born. Like, and because I know for Mark and Sophie, you don't have children, but when you have a baby, that's like, seriously, you're going to cop more advice from more people than you ever have in your life. Like, everyone is an expert on raising children, and you just need to take the bits and pieces from everyone, like, listen to it all, but just pick and choose what you want to use and implement to raise your own child. Like, yeah, it gets very overwhelming, like what people are going to tell you about raising children.
Actually, that's where I also started to become better at hearing people and going, you know what, I'm going to reflect. And I'm still improving on that concept of, when someone says something to you, you just listen and you just go reflect and just choose what you want to do, but then also responding to that person saying, thank you, I'll have a think, because you do, like, oh my God, even from pregnancy, man, I was getting left, right, and center. Exactly. From the moment that you even go into a relationship with someone, right, when are you getting married, right, when are you going to have kids, right, when are you going to what are you going to do? Are you going to have, when you're pregnant, or how many are you going to have? When's the next one coming? Oh, God, it's like, so it is true, actually. And maybe that is what's happened in the Western world. We have given so much advice. People are sick of it. People don't want to hear it. And that's why you have to be wise when you share information. If you think that you've got information that's beautiful, okay, good for you. Maybe, I know you need to see what the listener needs. What is it that my friend needs? Do they need to hear that what we talked about tonight, or do they need to hear about another concept, and what is it that person needs?
It's empathy for other people is how to, or having empathy for other people is how to give that advice, and I think, and in a way that they'll take it on, rather than trying to just spit like your opinions at them. And
probably a very much a history of, unfortunately, both political, religious, philosophical, and that the people have been very narcissistic in terms of their leadership. And so people actually put off now. They're put off by people actually telling them what to think now, because they're like, because that is very, even if I was, for example, a religious person, but also a narcissist, I would be obsessed with everyone having to believe what I believe. Yep. This is going to work. This method's going to work, and everyone has to do it. Come on, let's go. It's like, imagine in a soul time space. I'd be like, no, guys, come on, next person. What's your quote now? And then just, and I think people have had enough of that. They've had enough of these people that have been narcissistic leaders in different platforms, religious, political, psychological, everything. And they're just like, no, I'm done. I'm going to live my own individualistic life. Like, look at America right now. They don't even want to listen to anyone, because they are very much individualist, because we'll talk about Shah, because they're sick of people they don't trust anyone telling them anymore what to do, their advice.
Interesting is too that people don't realize that they're receiving these subconscious messages all the time. So they think that, like, you can just say, like, I'm not doing what you tell me to do, but then all the time, like, they have this input of information that they not conscious of. Like, they're passively receiving this information all the time from the media, from journalism, from film, from TV, from books. We receive information all the time, and so we do have to develop the capacity to use this wisdom in what information we're going to take on board, and like what information we're going to say, thank you, not today, maybe another time.
Yeah.
I came across this very interesting analogy, and it like helped me to visualize advice and criticism as well. And I was saying, like, we should think of our mind as a complex house, and when criticism or advice comes knocking at the door, we always open the door and welcome them in. Just welcome them inside, but just keep them in the foyer area. Like, don't let them go off exploring the house. And then like they share their advice or they share their criticism, and from there you can decide whether you take them into the lounge room and have a cup of tea and chat it out and explore it a bit more, or you say to them, thank you for coming, I'm a bit busy today, like, see you later, kind of thing. And I just thought
Shut the door.
shut the door. So we always open the door, and I think due to experiences and due to circumstances and various leaders and maybe even wars and conflicts, certain injustices, we've learned to just keep the door shut. Like, we're not like holding on for it, like, dear life, don't come in. We've just totally shut the door and welded it closed.
Safe stuff, yeah.
Yeah, we're depriving our mind of information, of the opportunity to grow and develop, like, and to learn.
I love that.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It helped me so much when I heard that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
everything.
That person didn't make it up.
Sophie.
That person heard it from somewhere. He heard it from someone else. He heard it from Aristotle.
And at the end of the day, it's a nice combination. That's the thing, like, this body of knowledge, it's a combination of no thanks, of thinking, and it's not any one person's idea. I believe it comes from like one source, which is the universe or God or something unknown that it's created, like the trees and stuff like that. It's all kind of evolving, it's all come from one thing, it's all one, it's all evolving, and that's the cool thing about it. But I love that analogy, Sophie. That's really cool, because we're all ready for different things at different times.
Yeah, and we have like the capacity to say, yes, I want to investigate this more, or actually this is not aligning with what I believe right now, but thank you for coming by. Like, there's no piece of advice or criticism that's not valuable, because the person who's sharing it was valuable to them, but it doesn't necessarily like mean it applies in your reality and it's going to have the same effect. And we can use our discretion and our wisdom to be able to determine whether that's something that's going to be of benefit to ourselves and to others around us as well.
That is a interesting concept to just focus with our friends. That how can we what is that? Is something hanging from the ceiling? It's actually, that's more productive, and this is like to everyone out there that's trying to change the opinions of our friends and stuff. More for me, it makes me more disheartened than anything, because I feel like, I wish that they could just be more happy, because all they have to do is, like, I have friends that complain about work if they have that job, and then when they don't have the job, or when everything is annoying to them, and I'm like, thinking, how can I help them see that if they just reflect, or for me, obviously that's pretty ignorant for me to say that, like, or very, I guess, not being very respectful to say, they should just reflect and just be more positive. But it's that what you're saying, what we're coming to, that what is that person ready for? What is the next step for that person's understanding, or what do they really need to hear to move forward? And even with the work that I do with my helping people declutter and stuff, I don't go in straight away gung-ho, hardcore, like the way I would do something, because that's not what that person's ready for. They're just ready to just do one cupboard, not the whole house. And again, it's that concept of they will let it in and I have to look for the signs of when they're closing the door, and just listen and take the next step and stop. And I think that's probably what's made our society so secular, because they're just angry and over it. People trying to shove things in their throat, and telling them what to think and oh that's bad. I hate it. I hate when people do stuff like that. I just sit and cringe and go, oh my God, you're actually going to turn that person more against what you're trying to say because you're just not listening to what they need.
I also like to add on a few things, I guess. Well, firstly, you said that you had trouble with exercise.
Yes.
Yeah, so, well, here's some interesting advice. Like, of course, we all have busy lives and we have things to do. And so obviously 1 hour of exercise is a lot of time. But what if I can tell you that you can do that 1 hour exercise in just 15 minutes, in 4 minutes of each day. So you'll do 4 minutes in the morning, 4 minutes in lunch, and then 4 minutes maybe in the afternoon. Now this exercise is called the nitric oxide dump. You ever heard of it? Everybody heard of it?
Show me.
Yeah. So pretty much the nitric oxide dump consists of, so the first one is you do like squats. So you go down like that and up. So that's one. And you do that 10 times. And then the next one, you do these sort of arm movements. So you have to hit them together down here. 1 and then 2. So like that. And remember, you have to have your shoulders back and you have to, back straight. And that's, you do 10 of those. And then the next one is you do 10 of these other arm movements, which you go 1. I mean, this is 1. So this is 2. This is 3. So, and also remember to have your shoulders back, your arms relatively straight, and then the next and the final workout, the final one is the sort of the shoulder presses. So you have them sort of right angles to your thing, and then you go 1, 2, and you do that 10 times. Hi, Future Mark here, with the very terrible microphone. Wow! Alright, I just realized I forgot to add to this, so I don't want to give any false information. So I only showed 1 set, and you can't just do just 1 set, you have to do 3. And then you have to do that 3 times a day. So as summary, you do 3 sets, and then you do that 3 times a day. So that's equivalent to 90 of each movement per day. Anyway, that's all I got to say. So bye, back to the video, wow. Now the key with this, you can't breathe through your mouth. You have to keep it closed and you have to breathe through your nostrils. And the thing is, you don't have to, for example, with the squats, you don't have to go all the way down. All you have to do is, you have to do it fast. That's the main key of this exercise. That's why it can be done in 4 minutes, or it can be even done in 2 minutes. I can do it in about 2 minutes 30. And if you do that every day, and it only takes 4 minutes of your time, and yeah, it's apparently equivalent to 1 hour in the gym. And also there's a lot of benefits. And to know if you've done it right, you'll feel this weird tingling sensation in your hands, and that's what you know that the nitric oxide is sort of flowing through your veins. So that's the nitric oxide dump. So I don't know, you might can try it. It's quite fun, and it doesn't take much time. Yeah, and also the other thing is, I also like to add with the why most people don't want to talk about religion or something is that I think also people are oversensitive. That obviously, we all said that most people hate each other because someone has a different opinion, or if they say something slightly different, it's like, oh, what did you say about God? Did you say he's not real? Like they just attack them already. So I think I feel that people are just too sensitive. Like, for example, sometimes with even the genders, like, oh, you didn't call me by this and that. Oh, how dare you not acknowledge my gender something, or even with the vegans, they like if you go something against it, they just get too sensitive against it, and it's I think people have to be less sensitive as well. So, or else if you're just too sensitive, it's not. That's sort of maybe an illness, mental illness, maybe being too sensitive. Perhaps I think. Anyway.
Well, the bad part of being too sensitive, it would be more being defensive, like not even willing to listen to that person. It's a lot of immaturity. When you get more mature, I'm not saying I'm perfect at it at all. I feel like I've developed over the years about being able to hear when someone has something totally different towards me, or even something so offensive. Like, let's say, like, honestly, it can be very offensive sometimes as a parent. People will say something that, you know, the way that you parent or the way you live or what you feed your children or whatever. Over time, you learn to be more mature, more calm, not react in a certain situation. I think psychology is very much needed in this situation. Like, yes, you can have prophets and great thinkers and philosophers. You need spiritual education, but you also need physical education. You also need material education. We need to learn about psychology. We need to learn about what's good about eating, like what kind of food to feed ourselves. We need to learn knowledge about the sciences, the arts. You need a moderation of learning. And if you don't have that, you become so attached to your own ideas, as you say, you become sensitive and not mature and being able to listen to that person. And yeah, definitely we are very sensitive. We need to stop reacting when someone says something contrary to what we believe. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking with our junior youth about spiritual strength just the last week, and like what that means to have spiritual strength and how it's different to being physically strong. And I came across a quote today. It kind of speaks to like what Mark was saying. It's from Barack Obama, and he said, if somebody is different from you, that's not something you criticize, that's something you appreciate. And this is like an idea that's floated around for a long time. But I was just thinking, as Mark was speaking as well, we need a spiritual strength to be able to do that. To be able to look at someone and know that their ideas are different, their opinions are different, their behaviors look very different from us, but we don't criticize them for that. We appreciate that it's different and that we have something to learn from it. And I think to be able to do that, we have to train those spiritual muscles to be able to not default to criticizing, but also to like start to develop this capacity to appreciate other people's differences, and that whole like house analogy. We don't have to do the same thing, but just appreciate that there are different approaches, and that's okay, and that's people's reality, and that's people's experience. But I think it becomes about its practice. Like, we have to be in these situations where we come up against people who have these differing ideas and have differing opinions, to be able to like put into practice these things that we are trying to understand, and these concepts that are so beautiful and really lend themselves to unity. And we're not going to be perfect at it straight away. We have to keep working those spiritual muscles. Yeah, and it's just so interesting. Like, as soon as we started talking about spiritual strength with the junior youth, like I had so many things come up, and I was like, oh, right, spiritual strength. I need it.
It was really sweet, actually. So there was different scenarios. But there was this one particular scenario about, one of your friends asks you to do their homework, and they said they'll buy you something, you know,
comic book or something like that.
Well, a comic book or something. And it had like A, I would do this, B, B, C, D, whatever. And we started talking about it, and then these girls are quite smart, like in this group, like this, obviously they've just gravitated together, and that we've started this group with them. But they were actually, then one of them asked, hey, do you think that people use you because you're smart or want to be friends with us? They're like, we sometimes feel like, some of them were sharing, sometimes I feel like people want to be friends with me only because I'm smart, or they want to use. So we started talking about how these opportunities, you need to face them. You need to be in them to practice, like Sophie is saying, practice this muscle of being able to say, well, no, I'm not going to do your homework for you, as hard as it is, because we want people to like us. It starts from this age, even when we're adults. Sometimes we don't want to say something that someone else is not going to like because we don't want to upset that person. We want them to be our friend or whatever. It's very interesting. So we're talking to them from the age of 14 about this concept of being able to be just like calm and say, look, don't think that's the right thing, but how about we work on it together? And then afterwards we could like go to the movies or something. So there was all these different scenarios of confront. Like we were asking them, do you think you should confront the situation? And some of them were like, well, actually, no, depending on the individual, like if that person's going to react or be really upset, we wouldn't bring it up. And they were being so wise. And I thought that's the same thing. And so we were talking to them about spiritual strength because they will be going through, breakups in their lives, friendships that they're going to lose, jobs they're not going to get, like, and how they're strengthening their spiritual muscle to be okay with these situations, And same thing, like, actually, that's a very interesting point that you brought up, Mark. Like, the reason why people don't want to share is because they are now worried that people are going to jump at them or attack them because they're so sensitive. Like, how do we develop that spiritual strength? That's why I like this space, guys, because I feel like we can bring stuff up and mash it up, and it's okay if someone thinks differently, like, but we're all very respectful. This is the interesting thing. Everyone's respectful. Like, yes, I'm sure we all have very strong opinions and views, but we kind of appreciate everyone that's ever come, that we've always appreciated a very respectful way that we're trying to share maybe what people want to hear and engage with, which is really good. This is how people should have conversations. We're setting a good example for the world.
Yeah.
But I do think we need the prophets and great thinkers and philosophers. Like I do feel that they do. That's why we're always trying to encourage to bring quotes, because they do have a lot of a wealth of knowledge. And so we should be calling on them and seeing what they've said and what they've experienced and thought about different topics.
It's sounding like just an essay right now. They said at the start and middle. In conclusion, we need prophets, great thinkers, and philosophers.
I am.
Yeah.
Lucky you live with one, Tay. Lucky you live with one.
Yeah.
Alex.
What you were saying, Sophie, that quote from Obama was similar to something I shared yesterday, I think it was. I don't know if you saw it. It was something like, never pick on someone that speaks in broken English because they know two languages. They're possibly smarter than you because they know two languages. And I'd never looked at it from that perspective. Like, obviously that person, they've gone out of their way to learn another language. So you've got to respect that and acknowledge.
I was just going to say, well, obviously, we all think that, like, I think that's what Tao was saying, but obviously that's not what most people really do. They like to, well, obviously if they don't think the way they think, they don't think it's feasible that this way could be better, it's only this way. So I think that's also a mindset that is closed or fixed mindset. I don't think many people have like a growth mindset to see the other side or even reconsider that this could work. As I think in history, if we didn't have these great thinkers, philosophers or prophets who thought differently, then if we just all thought, for example, back when the church was all reign, or even further back when, I don't know, maybe the Egyptian gods, if we just, or even more back, if there wasn't one person who didn't invent a wheel and they just pushed it by their hands, well, then we wouldn't get anywhere, because that guy thought, if we carve this rock into a circle, we can actually make it easier. So he thought differently. So if we don't have these sort of weird ideas that come from different people, then nothing would change. It would just be all the same, and we wouldn't increase, science wouldn't increase, new theories, ideas wouldn't, it'd just be all, nothing would advance. Like even though, so for example, if you're working on something and someone says, you've been doing this all the same way every time, and then someone says, oh, what if we do it this way? And then you just back them off, or you say, oh, go away, your idea, it would never work. We've always been doing it this way and it's always worked. But if you just forget about him, he might have maybe his idea makes production 10 times faster, and you just fired him, or you kicked him out, so you just never got his say.
You're so right. Like when we blindly imitate the past, like how much we miss as well. Like just that following tradition of, just blindly imitating like what other people have done, or what we have done all along.
Yeah, because if we just also even following sort of rules back in the day, if we just kept following those rules, then we won't progress. Obviously, we will still have slaves, and we will still have, well, I don't know, no women voting, and that we wouldn't have any of that, because well, I guess I think it was Abraham Lincoln, one bright, smart person said, "Oh, let's free the slaves," and yeah, so I guess you just have to. We all have to try to have an open mind to things, even if it's wrong or right, and we just evaluate it and see how it works. And then if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. But if it works, then that's what you need. That's good. It works. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Something I've been like contemplating a lot lately is just like just your own personal truths and things like that. Like I can't remember where I heard it. It was in a podcast somewhere, but they're talking about like you're raised with your beliefs and values from your parents, who were raised with the beliefs and values and traditions and whatnot from their parents, and so forth. You think that's right. You think the way you think in your head, the way you believe, and your core values is right, but it's completely different to the person next door to you, or mine's completely different to Mark or Sophie and whatnot. So it's, I don't know, like that's where we as our group, like we're free thinkers, and we try to explore and expand our consciousness, and just, I don't know, we're just like more inquisitive. I just had a bit of trouble with some friends lately, like that, I don't know, just weren't very open-minded, and it made me sort of just ponder on it quite a bit. So yeah,
it's really hard. Like, it's very interesting because you are very much trying to explore something, and then when people are closed-minded, that's why it's really, it's for you, it's great that you found a group that you can explore these things, because it can be very challenging when a lot of people around you are very close-minded. And I'm not trying to say this in a negative or condescending way. I'm not trying to say I know better or we know better or anything like that. But the only way around it is to obviously be patient with these people. We have to be, but we have to find our own way to fill our cup, because when you have a level of understanding or conscious, or you enjoy having certain conversations, you need to find people that are willing to do it too. Otherwise you go crazy, because it's a shame, because we do have that capacity, like Mark was saying, like, we have developed over time, but there are people still stuck in certain ways of thinking and just behaving that maybe people behaved like hundreds of years ago. It's like we've moved so forward. Education is key, though. It's very crucial. Like Shahab and I, we see like a lot of people that have, whether they're interested in reading or studying something or doing some kind of reading or developing their knowledge some way, you can see the difference. Then when they're just like not even willing to read anyone else's theory, anyone's like TAFE course, nothing, not even willing to learn anything because they think they know it, then they're going to just get stuck in that mindset. It's very important to create these kind of spaces, and that's why I really love like everything that I've come across in terms of my personal, everyone, obviously I'm just talking about my own reflection, but my own personal like upbringing. And like my parents, we always lived in small towns, so we never really, even though we were Baha'is, we never had a huge Baha'i community, or like culturally we never had like anything that we stuck to. So we like all the principles of the faith are like we're all one and we should be looking at everyone as equal. So it was really great because we had to create our own community, like people, like we had to create our own friends, or you know, that kind of community. That's what I mean. And so that's why like it's important that we all have that mindset, that we have to create a community, and we have to find people that are also like-minded, and we have to encourage them to also create spaces like this. And that's why I love it, because I'm like, I'm not waiting for someone else to start this, or some kind of religious leader to come and tell me that, okay, this is the quotes you're going to study for the week, this is the thing that you're going to be doing this week. Because I never kind of grew up in that environment where people were dictating, like, kind of do it. And so that's why it's really important. That's why Sophie and I are so passionate about the Tune Youth Group, because we want to raise up these girls or boys or these people 12 to 15 years to think that way. Like, start your own thing. You want to do, like, I can't believe these girls raised almost $600 for Australia's Biggest Morning Tea just because one of them's like, oh, let's do it. Yeah, okay, let's run with it. Like, they didn't wait for an adult to come and tell them that let's do this. And so this is like people that are significantly younger than us, the future. So it's good that if you just create your own, find your own, like I can't believe the way that I met Paul that night. I still can't believe it. It's me. And Mark, like I met him because some other lady was like friends with his dad and was sending him birthday cards, and then Tahara taught him at uni, but then kind of reconnected with his lady more. Like, yeah. But then you have to say, okay, we're going to have these things on this night. Do you want to come? Because otherwise we never get to even the opportunity to fill up our cup. Or
interesting, Paul. I was thinking about like if people were plants. For some reason, when you brought that up, and Tay's going to be so proud of me for using a plant analogy. But if people were plants, so if we think about like every plant has the potential to grow. Yep. Like they all do. That's their purpose, to grow. But it depends on their environment and the conditions and the gardener and the soil and the light. And so sometimes I feel like you as a person, maybe now, like the soil's very fertile. You've got the right amount of light. Your roots are really, you know, they're solid and you're growing, and, you know, and maybe like some of these like friends that we have, and we'll always have them, maybe they're just not growing in the right conditions, and it's like it's kind of they're decomposing in a way. Like sometimes they have to, like, they appear to be suffering, like their leaves will droop or they might lose their leaves. That needs to happen so that they can be maybe relocated. They need to be moved in the sun. They need to change their soil. They need more watering, less watering. The conditions aren't right for them yet, and they still have the capacity to grow, but the conditions aren't right. But it will. I feel that with people, it always comes to that, like, that time. Like I feel like with you as well, even in the last year, like you were moved into the sunlight, it kind of seems.
Oh,
like,
definitely. Yeah.
And from there it started this like flourishing. For me, I've had a very similar experience where I felt very much in the dark, felt very much like I was losing all my leaves and falling apart, and then I got moved into a place where it was, you know, more fruitful for me. And I'm sure for Mark as well, perhaps you've had a similar experience as well, where you feel like all of a sudden the conditions are right and you just are going for it. You feel in yourself so much growth. And I think it maybe helped me to remember that that people are growing at their own pace, and we have to just remember that they're on they're on their journey and to be patient with them because plants are bloody hard to grow, and so are people.
Yep.
I was going to quickly say I'm going to head off. I'm just losing a bit of my concentration, so you guys continue. But I'm going to
Almost finished. Yeah, we'll close up.
peace out till
Good
next
night.
7:30 next
Yeah,
Friday.
we'll choose a topic before we finish up.
I'm just losing it.
Yeah.
My mind's
Shahab's-
and it's just like
Yeah, of course.
all over the place.
Poor Shahab. Too much.
Too long of a day at
Too
work.
deep for him.
That was me last week. Too many plant analogies.
I just like to also say that, well, when that time when I was at the funeral, I'm kind of actually glad that there are like-minded people, because I would not saying that my friends are bad, but I would say that I always, I don't know, I always thought I thought different to them compared to, well, here, that we all have similar minds, but I thought that in my sort of friend group, we have sort of different minds. Of course, they're all good friends, but if I had to pick favorites, you guys would be my favorites. If someone watches this video, all my friends are going to kill me.
No, that's very sweet.
It's really interesting. It's very true. Like, it's very much. I remember when I first moved to Cops, I was like, man, like trying to find people I could just connect with. It was really hard, and that's when I met Hyacinth. And I remember she was the first person in Cops, and I probably lived here 2 years. Yeah, I must have been more than 2. And it gave me so much hope because I met her through someone else, and we were at like some girls' night that I went to, and I was so sick actually, like I had a cold. And these days you're not supposed to go anywhere when you have a cold, which it's not highly, but now in hindsight I think, okay, thank goodness I went, because I met her, and I remember I was just telling her like about who I am, like, yeah, where I've come from, da da da. And just the way she was responding to me, I thought, oh my goodness, I found someone that actually is listening. It was really weird. It was a very weird experience. That feeling you get when you go, oh my God, like even when I met Mark and Sophie and Paul, all of you, I had that same feeling like, oh my gosh, like this person is more than just the material. Yeah. They want to do something, which is, guys, to be honest, like everyone has that capacity.
Yeah.
Everyone has, we all just have different measures and different tasks that we need to do and different things, but we all have that capacity. It's just about whether that person is in denial that they're a plant or not. Really, that plant example, they're in denial that they're dying, shriveling in a corner in the dark, but they're the plant. And actually, there was an example that I read, like an analogy that about the prophets and great thinkers and philosophers, like mainly prophets, I think. It says that it's like they're like farmers. They use us as the capacity. They're not actually, they didn't kind of make us. They just help us to kind of navigate us in the right place, in the right climate. So they've come when the world is usually in a really bad state, and they just kind of trying to help guide us and remove some weeds, and maybe that's like the old way of thinking, like you were suggesting, Mark, what old ways of doing things like slavery, or even, God, yeah, there's so many old things that, yes, we see glimpses of still, but that's what they're designed to do. And so as friends, sometimes when we are more conscious, we think, we just want to say, look, just move into the light, like just move yourself. It can't be that hard. But we just have to be patient and just keep having conversations with people and making sure that we don't like to think that there's people out there right now, guys, lonely, thinking that they wish that they had something like this to come to.
Yeah.
That's like, I just hope that I'm like guided to the right person as an individual. That's what I mean. Like the right person that wants it and needs it and wants to have these conversations. And so that's really what we should always think, like there are like these young people, like even like Sophie and Mark, that are just at home right now thinking, I'm so much more different to my friends. You know, that's the hard part, being in your 20s and thinking like that is not easy. And Hyacinth said she always felt that, but she always felt she was weird. And she didn't become Princess until she was like late 30s, you know, last few years. But, you know, that's the thing. Like she always felt like, oh, I must. And so I feel so sad for these 20-year-olds in their bedrooms right now thinking, I'm so weird. And the world's so different around me. So.
But it's, oh, I was going to say, but it's okay to be weird, I guess.
Yeah, embrace it.
like,
well, no, you know what it is? The bad part is when you think that you don't connect with people. That's the hard part. Of course, you should embrace being weird. It's the when you feel like you're like in a situation where you can't connect, or why can't I connect with people? Why am I different to others or society? That, rather than the weird thing. Oh man, be weird. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's pointing to next week's topic in a way, like because they kind of talking about like divergent thinking and belonging and like themes of materialism. Like we have so much to work with here for next week. What are we thinking to do for next week?
What do you think, Sophie? Like, oh, sorry, Paul, were you going to say something?
No, I was like had the same thoughts in the back of my mind then too, Sophie. I was like, I feel like we're sort of rolling into something for next week at the moment, but what exactly is it?
Exactly.
Maybe this like idea of belonging. Have we done something like belonging before?
No.
Because I think that ties in with what we're talking about, in that like sometimes when people are divergent thinkers, then their thoughts don't immediately like conform to popular opinion. You feel like you're weird, you feel like you don't belong, and you beat yourself up inside.
Belonging, there'll be so much, you know, quotes and stuff on that, I reckon.
Definitely.
Would everyone be happy to do belonging?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Good, because at the end of the day, that's really ties in to the end that we talked about now.
Yeah,
cool. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Cool. I love how they just come up organically.
Yeah.
Guys, it's the key. Like, if anyone ever says anything otherwise, it's like, nah, good stuff. Like, I mean, the reality of the group and stuff. You can't just be like, no, we have to do it this way, and next week's topic is this because we have to meet a particular order. And
no, it's
what order?
Yeah, let it flow.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Guys, this was so nice.
Yeah.
What a great conversation.
People is better, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily because it's like, you know, the conversations can be a bit more flowing, but that's just natural. But that's why people don't want to be inclusive, right? Because they know that the more people, the more complex it becomes. That's fine. Tonight was
good because then we develop our spiritual strength.
I know, exactly. We need to be inclusive. I'm not encouraging. All right, guys. Good night.
Have a good week, everyone. Good weekend. Good week
ahead. Meet up in a few months. You never know.
We can have 2 people over now, can't we?
I meant 2 people. That's right.
Yeah.
But eventually, in a few months, we might be able to do it once every few weeks, meet up or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, when the restrictions ease off.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Good night. Have a good weekend.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good to see you.
You too.
Bye.
See ya.
Whoa, what's up, lads? It's me, Mark, from school. I don't know. So that was a very interesting soul time today. We learnt about prophets, philosophers, and great thinkers. And we had a few laughs in there, and it was very interesting to hear everyone's opinion. And I'm so glad that you watched the entire video as well. Wow, congrats! Now you know more! Wow! So next week our topic is belonging. Wow guys, what's belonging? I have no idea. Well, you're gonna have to find out. So if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. Come on guys, we all want to a lack in your life. That didn't make any sense, but I'm going to go with it. And perhaps you can even share it around to your friends. Or, even better, you can join us at Soul Time. Wow, guys, that's so cool, isn't it? Wow. Anyway, so I guess I only got a few seconds because goddamn this video was 2 hours long. You got to be joking. Like 2 hour video? Bruh. I have to edit that. And I have to watch that. That's 4 hours. So, alright, so I think that's all the time. So bye, see you next week.